I'm Emily Loeb, and I'm the Director of Programs and Education at the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh. And it's so nice to see so many people here with us tonight. We are happy that you are able to join us for this important and joyous event. This is the 39th year that the Holocaust Center has held the Waldman Awards. In 1985, the Waldman family had this idea of inviting middle and high school students to engage more deeply with the Holocaust and reflect on what they learned through visual arts and creative writing. And this past year, across the region, schools held school-sponsored competitions, and after their own internal judging, the teachers, some of whom are here tonight, sent us the winners to be considered in a final round of judging by our own panel of judges. And you guys should all be really proud of yourselves and the work that you've produced. The entries were really impressive, as you can see them lined up over there. We had everything from a handmade satin daffodil created from a deconstructed point shoe, connecting the artist's passion and love for dance with Audrey Hepburn's efforts to support the resistance in the Dutch resistance, to a very intricate diorama centered on the story of Nicholas Winton, a British humanitarian who rescued Czech children during the Holocaust, to poetries and essays and paintings that reflected on this really difficult period of history. And all of you have taken this subject of the Holocaust, which we deal with every day, and incorporated it and internalized it and then created art with it. And that is an impressive feat. And we encourage you to continue to use art and writing to try to make the world a better place. And I want to take a moment to thank Hal and Diane Waldman, who are here with us tonight, along with their daughters, Kelly and Catherine, for helping establish this award ceremony so many years ago, or this awards so many years ago. And I want to also note the other organizations that support our work to educate people about the Holocaust, including the New Tree of Life, the Regional Asset District, and the Jack Buncher Foundation. And finally, I wanted to thank my fellow staff members who are scattered around the room tonight: Christina Sahovi, Noah Schoen, Julia Gattano, and Marcel Walker, and Nick Haberman and all of his colleagues at the Light Education Initiative, the team at the New Tree of Life, and our advisory board, as well as we have student workers and interns, Connor McInich and Sean McIntosh and Lizzie Sharp. And so now I'm going to invite Christina Sahovi up to introduce our Holocaust Educator of the Year.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you tonight for one of my favorite days of the year, the Waldman Arts and Writing Awards and Educator of the Year Awards ceremony. Working in Holocaust studies and anti-Semitism work, we carry a heavy burden in our day-to-day lives here. And this is not only one of the most meaningful traditions we do, but also one of the happiest programs for our staff, honoring all of you amazingly talented students and one innovative, dedicated educator each year. Tonight, it is my honor to present the Educator of the Year Award to Miss Rebecca Baverso of St. Bede's School in Point Breeze. Becky has been teaching at St. Bede's for 25 years now. In that time, she has made it part of her mission to pass along factual stories from the Holocaust, safeguarding these narratives for future generations, and ultimately leading her students to become kinder, more compassionate individuals. In all of those 25 years, she has taken the opportunity to study the Holocaust with her students through various new and visionary methods. These have included mural painting and other works of art, podcasting, and multimedia presentations. Becky also utilizes her love and knowledge of comics and graphic novels by incorporating the Holocaust Chutzpah comic book series in her curriculum. Last year, she lent her expertise and collaborated with our Holocaust Center colleague Marcel Walker on a publication intended for other teachers on how to effectively use comics and graphic prose in their classroom. And we have copies of Volume 1 and this publication back at the check-in table. Becky also regularly hosts survivors and now generation speakers in her classroom, bringing a speaker every year to address her combined 7th and 8th graders. She has also brought several groups of students to the Holocaust Center on field trips. As well, Becky has participated in multiple professional development opportunities presented by the Holocaust Center. On one more personal note, her friendship with beloved survivor Shulamit Bestaki of blessed memory is well known and lasted many years up until Shulamit's death, to the point where Becky was asked to speak at Shulamit's Shloshim, a Jewish tradition held 30 days after a person's passing. If there's anyone here in this room tonight who can attest to her commitment to education and her students in general, and to teaching the Holocaust more specifically, it is, well, me, actually. As it happens, I was a student at St. Bede's School way back in 1999 when Miss B, as I will now call her because it's so deeply weird to call her Becky, started as my 7th grade English language arts teacher. She was fresh out of grad school then, and I was a nerdy, awkward 12-year-old with a budding interest in history. I can claim that Miss B was truly my first Holocaust educator. She had us read Anne Frank's The Diary of a Young Girl and took us on a field trip to the old Holocaust Center, back when it was at the JCC in Squirrel Hill. There I had the privilege to hear a local survivor, who has now since passed away, speak about her experiences. And just last year, fast forwarding 20 plus years, I had the pleasure of returning to St. Bede's as a guest to watch Miss B's 8th grade class give their Chutzpah Superheroes of the Holocaust group presentations. Who would have thought that 20 plus years later, I would be working here at the Holocaust Center, leading field trips myself, working with teachers, and getting to call Miss B not only my former teacher, but now my colleague and friend. Everyone has that one teacher who they never forget about, who has left such an impact on their life. For me, truly, it is you, Miss B. Your writing assignments were legendary. You challenged me while clearly showing your care and devotion to your students, and clearly your dedication to teaching about the Holocaust remains with many of us. And it's clear when I see your interactions with your students now that you still have that connection with them today. And with that, it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to present the Educator of the Year Award for 2023-2024 to my former teacher and now my friend, Miss B, Rebecca Baverso. And now I am pleased to present our first guest speaker for the evening, Dan Ottenheimer, presented here virtually.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to speak at the Waldman Competition Award Ceremony. My name is Dan Ottenheimer, and I'm one of the generation speakers for the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh. My dad, Fritz Ottenheimer, was a Holocaust survivor, and he was also a volunteer speaker at the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh for over 30 years. I'm told that the Holocaust Center is distributing copies of my dad's book, Escape and Return, to some of this year's award winners. I'm gratified to hear that you'll have the opportunity to read my dad's book. And it's especially appropriate that this year's winners are receiving the book, since the theme for the competition this year is Rescue During the Holocaust. And there are several stories about rescues in my dad's book. My dad was born in 1925 in Konstanz, Germany, and he lived there until he was 14 years old, when in 1939, he and his parents were able to come to the United States. They were essentially rescued by their relatives here in the US, who had put up a financial guarantee, a bond, in order for the US immigration officials to allow my dad's family to come here. And even with the financial guarantee in place, it took 3 years for the US to approve the family immigration application. They almost didn't make it out of Germany because World War II started just a few months after they were able to leave. This is why our family believes that it is very important to support and rescue people who are trying to flee from persecution, war, or famine. Konstanz, the town in Germany where my dad lived, was located on the far southern edge of Germany, right on the border with Switzerland. And so my dad came in contact with a number of people who were trying to flee into Switzerland to escape Nazi oppression. In fact, in 1938, he and his family helped rescue some 300 Austrian Jews, helping them to flee into Switzerland. This is how it happened. In the spring of 1938, Germany announced that they were going to annex Austria, a neighboring German-speaking country. The German army marched into Austria. The Austrian government didn't try to stop them at all. Austria was now part of Germany. Not long after that, I don't know if it was a couple days or a week or two, there was a knock on my dad's apartment door. And when they opened the door, they saw a family standing there. The family explained that they were Austrian Jews, and they had tried to check into the hotel in Konstanz, only to be informed that in Germany, it was illegal for Jews to stay in a hotel. But the hotel manager had suggested they come over to the Ottenheimer apartment, that the Ottenheimers would be able to put them up for the night. So my dad and his family welcomed them in and fed them dinner and heard their story. They said that their neighbors had broken into their home while they were in it, forced them out onto the street, and proceeded to vandalize and ransack their home. While this was happening, the Austrian police had just stood by and watched and done nothing to try to stop it. The Austrian family felt fortunate that they escaped unharmed, and they had decided that they were going to flee into Switzerland. Now, although Austria shared a border with Switzerland, just like Germany shared a border with Switzerland, it was very hard to get into Switzerland. The Swiss government was being very strict about who was allowed into their country. They did not want the country to be overrun with Jewish refugees. And it was also very difficult to just sneak over the border because there was a natural barrier. The Rhine River and Lake Constance made it very difficult to cross into Switzerland, except at one of the bridges, which is where all the guards were. Now, this Austrian Jewish family didn't have any documentation that would give them official permission to get into Switzerland. They had just fled from their home and grabbed some clothing when they escaped. So they had come to Konstanz because they knew that Konstanz was right on the border with Switzerland, and they were hoping they could find some way to sneak over the border. Well, the Austrian Jewish family stayed overnight with my dad's family. And the next morning, the two families went on a walk together. And my grandfather took them all to a special part of Konstanz called the Altstadt, or the Old City. It turns out that the Old City portion of Konstanz was actually located on the south side of the Rhine River. In fact, it's the only part of Germany located south of the Rhine. So they walked along until they got to a little field, and my grandfather pointed to a stream in the middle of the field and said, "That is the border between Germany and Switzerland right here." Well, the Austrian Jewish family couldn't believe their good fortune. They hopped over this little stream, and they were free in Switzerland. They must have contacted some of their friends back in Vienna, Austria, because a few days later there was another knock on my dad's apartment door. It was another Austrian Jewish family. And over the next several weeks, there was a steady stream of Austrian Jewish refugees coming to my dad's apartment, spending the night there, and being shown the way to freedom the next day. There's more to this story, including how a Konstanz police inspector figured out what my dad's family was doing and offered to help rescue the Austrian Jews. But I'll let you learn about that part of the story by reading my dad's book. The Holocaust was a terrible, terrible event. It is hard to believe that people could be so cruel, so indifferent, that they could support the murder of millions of innocent victims. And that's why it's so important that we continue to share these personal stories about the Holocaust, and write essays, and write poetry, and create other works of art. It's a lesson about humanity that we must never forget. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Gattano, and I'm the Marketing and Education Associate at the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, as well as this year's Waldman Competition Coordinator. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you and to finally celebrate all the hard work that students have put into this year's competition. I'd like to personally thank all the teacher sponsors this year for putting up with the many emails that I've sent and making this competition possible on top of your already busy schedules. It's truly been an honor to work with such outstanding educators, and we greatly appreciate the work that you do. I'd also like to take a moment to thank this year's judges, for including our staff judges, for their important contribution to this event. Now we'll be getting to the presentation of the award shortly, as well as the announcement of the grand prize winner. Kelly and Catherine Waldman will be presenting certificates to round 1 winners who are here today, followed by Hal and Diane presenting certificates to our round 2 winners. When your name is called, you can come up, get your certificate and your picture taken, and then take your seat again. After all that, then the grand prize winner will be announced, and we'll hear from our final speakers, Ted Goldman and Avi Barron-Monroe. After the closing remarks, we'll ask that all students gather to get a group picture up here, and any additional prizes will be distributed, so make sure you stick around. We also invite everyone to stay and look at the art and help yourself to any refreshments if you haven't already. Before we finally get to the awards, it's my honor to invite Hal Waldman to come up and say a few words, both Hal and Diane, as founders of the program.
Well, it's really my honor to welcome everybody to tonight's award ceremony. I especially want to thank the students, of course, the teachers for all their hard work, and the Holocaust Center staff, especially Julia, who coordinated this extravaganza, and Emily, who you met earlier, who runs our Holocaust Center. They've done a fantastic job this year, as they've done for 39 years. As we said, we started this, oh geez, it's so long ago, 39 years ago, with the idea of helping students help themselves educate about the Holocaust. And we deliberately wanted to go out to all different schools, parochial, public, private, and we've done a good job of that through the years. This year, especially since October 7th, we've seen a terrible and alarming rise in anti-Semitism. So now, more than ever, it's important we do things like this essay contest so that students can educate themselves about the terror of what's going on. For students at colleges not to be able to attend their class, to go to worship services where there's security guards outside the door. And even in New York, my youngest daughter was walking by a march and was accosted. These are terrible things that are going on. So it's really my pleasure to enlist all of you winners tonight, and really everybody who's participated, to join the thousands of other students over the last 39 years who've participated in this contest, and join us in being frontline warriors against the scourge of prejudice and anti-Semitism. I thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you. I got to get these out. It's been 39 years. First, I'm going to have my daughters come up, Kelly and Catherine. And they're going to read out the names of the winners who are here tonight for their prizes.
Okay, we're very excited to announce the winner of the Poetry Graphic Prose category at Seneca Valley Intermediate High School, Michael Landon Clark. And then the winner of the essay category at Fox Chapel Area High School, Swati Mailarapa. And our final winner of the Poetry Graphic Prose category at Lafayette Middle School, Carson Soltis.
So it's now my honor to call to the podium the category winners, and if I butcher your name, I apologize in advance. For the high school poetry graphic prose, our winner is Piper Bozick of Mount Lebo High School. You know, when we first started the contest, it was just essays, and we added art. And for me, at least, some of the artwork has been incredible through the years. So for the high school 2D art, it's Paige D'Stasio. In the high school 3D art, it's John Eaton of Seneca Valley. Congratulations. Middle school 3D art is Raina Innocent from Springdale. Now for middle school poetry and graphic prose, it's Kaylin LaBella from Springdale. Congratulations. For middle school 2D art, it's Craig Varga, also from Springdale. The essay is for Noah Wiggin from Shaler. So now it's really my pleasure to announce the grand prize winner. I hope I didn't butcher your name the first time, or this time. It's Paige D'Stasio. I hope I was close. All right. Wait, I'm taking these off. Thank you. Thank you. How about a round for all our winners? It's now my pleasure to introduce our guest speakers, Ted Goldman and Avi Moreau.
I want to thank everybody, of course, who is here, because you are the next group of speakers, people that will remember the Holocaust, the third generation. It's so important that this keeps going on. Whether you're an award winner or a parent, we all have to keep talking about this or thinking about it. So I'm going to talk about Moshe Baron. I was very, very close to him. I am a caregiver. I became a caregiver after retiring. And I've had 9 Holocaust survivors, among others. I've had people from, and known people from France and Romania, Bulgaria, Transylvania, Hungary, Poland. And they all have different stories and different outlooks on the entire process of being a survivor. I became very close with Moshe, and through him I learned a lot and was able to talk with everybody else. And it's been an amazing journey for me. But before I get into kind of like the heavy duty stuff, I have to tell you, Moshe was a funny guy. You have to realize that even in the depths of what they had gone through, somehow they all emerge, and every survivor does. But Moshe for me was really special because he was funny. He would say things like, and I'll tell you an example which I've said before. One day I went to wake him up and he was sleeping in his room. And I go, and Moshe, let's get up. It's time for breakfast. Let's get up. He goes, give me 15 minutes, please. No, he's 100 years old. Okay, I'm going to give the guy 15 minutes. So I come back in 15 minutes. Moshe, let's get up. I have some strong coffee and some breakfast for you. Please, Dad. 15 minutes. All right, you got the other 15. I finally come back and Moshe, seriously, it's 11 o'clock. You got to get up. He goes, I say, Moshe, you're killing me. And he goes, that's not such a bad idea. So, and he had a student from one of the local religious schools here come to interview him. And the kid was a young, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and he had wonderful questions, and his mother was there. And at the end, he says, the kid says, I have one more question for you. And I think to myself, please, not this question, please, because I knew it was coming. And he says, the little boy says, how does it feel? How do you become 100 years old? And Moshe like deadpans for a second, and he said, don't die young. So his mother looks at his, the kid looks up, and this is the gem of wisdom that we have to take. Moshe said that make peace in the world is an illusion. You can only make peace in your world, the world around you. It is possible that we change the world that way. Before I begin, you can read about Moshe and Malka, his wife, and all the others. It's online, YouTube even. You got to hear their voices, their accents, and how they look or how they pause in a sentence or something. Anyway, up until the summer morning in June 1941, Moshe's life had been understandable, reasonable, and everything having its particular time and place. The river at the edge of the shtetl of Horodok traveled in throes of white water, its own time tumbling past the edge of the forest. Waking the morning, a rooster calls out the lazy, dependable sounds of cow. Bells stir in the sleep of others. The small herd slowly moves to the pastures through the town. Everything in its own time. On this last morning, Horodok, in the Pale of Settlement, in the land of Belarus, near the city of Minsk, had no idea what was about to slam into it and end its world. The neighbors gathered and pointing to the sounds. Then they saw the sounds. Motorcycles like stampedes of dust, trucks filled with Nazi soldiers, and the hordes on the ground unleashed from the trucks. And yes, they were dressed to kill. And they did. Moshe's uncle was murdered in front of him. A pregnant neighbor running in the madness across the square is shot and stumbles and drops. Doors are bashed in. Families stand around the table as if it is the table that they are protecting, pieces of bread in their trembling hands. They are massed together in front of the synagogue. A 3-year-old boy is lifted and then tossed by a boyish soldier into the horrified open mouth of the well. They call out to heaven in spontaneous chorus of recognition of this insane hum, of this new insane humanity. They are moved into a ghetto of Horodok and then into the ghetto Krasny. Moshe's father and sister, a twin, do not go. She is sick. His father will wait for his daughter. He is a loving and good man. They are shot from behind as they walk to the barn. I imagine them, their hands tightly intertwined at that moment, a defiant solidarity. Their ashes are now mixed with the rest of the Jews in Horodok. Moshe sobbed when he told me the story. It was a sobbing that went so deep that what I felt was an understanding of that which was unfathomable. It isn't who you are in the best of times, it's how you find yourself in the worst of times. This is a quote from Rabbi Sachs. Listening to Moshe, conjuring up with his eyes, had seen what his mind could not believe. I would not thought any less of him if he had told me that he escaped and just ran and ran, past every horizon, through every dawn, until the forest swallowed him up with its complete darkness. He did not run from, but he ran to the fringes of the dark forest, where he found a way to join a band of partisans, Red Army soldiers severed from its army when the Nazis retook Eastern Poland. I'm not going to stop. There was no signs pointing partisans this way for him to follow. He was a man alone, lost in a fickle forest. In the time of the hunting of the Jews is where he was. His compass pointing nowhere, but getting there, this nowhere, was everything. He had heard if a Polish partisan band found a Jew in the woods, that even if the Jew wanted to fight the Germans, they would shoot him dead. Moshe was not lucky in this search. He was, though, what Moshe liked to say, fortunate. There's a difference, Luck is something that can run out. Fortune is an intervention initiated by motivation, perhaps real, perhaps divine. Moshe sought out any partisan group. He heard two voices speaking Yiddish. He crept towards them. It turned out they were two Jewish Soviet commissars, officers of the Soviet Party. He was indeed close to a camp and without the usual ticket to get into these camps without bullets or a weapon. But he got in with the coattail and on the coattails of this fortunate meeting. This was a ragtag group of soldiers. I can only imagine Moshe walking in with that big ragtag general genuine smile on his face, shaking hands with everybody as he went by. Maybe not. But he met the commandant, a good man, Moshe said. He didn't warm up to Moshe right away, but Moshe being Moshe, well, it didn't take him long. He didn't tell them he was a Jew, and they didn't ask if he was a Jew. He could speak Russian, so the welcome was not a homecoming, but rather finding a place to sit and to rest. Talking to Moshe, I think surviving in the forest did not play best to the strong, but more so to the resilient, those who found a way to consider the abnormal normal. For a Jew, it may have been reassigning your faith to a different place in your soul. I believe this is what Moshe did for a while. Moshe did not judge the stranger then or now. He could relate to all types and judge them on the simple criteria of what is considered to be a good human being in those extraordinary times. He was trusted in battle, and he had many. With all of my years of conversation with Moshe about being a partisan, I realized that he saw a clarity of purpose about being a partisan, that you were a knight errant, a Robin Hood, with tights on, or without tights, speaking Yiddish, a Don Quixote with a machine gun, and so on. If you suffered hunger, little or no fixed shelter, scant medical care, always being outgunned and outmanned, and having the entire German army more than a little bit pissed at you, knowing that if you were caught, you would be tortured and tortured and tortured. Notwithstanding those things, your life had a rare spark. In the midst of all else, hope is always desperate for us just to stick around. It was in these times and in these woods, that he was able to arrange to get his mother, his other sister, and his brother out of the Krasny Ghetto, just days before the remaining Jews of Horodok were exterminated. Moshe arranges for them to go to a family camp deep in the woods where they will spend the rest of the war. His mother is the only mother of Horodok to survive. She died many years later in Queens, New York, in her bed between white sheets, with her grandchildren about. This was the greatest gift of fortune in his life, followed closely by the meeting of his wife, Malka. Your mission in life, said Moshe, is to find your mission in life. When the war ends, Moshe's journey will just not end. It won't end. He finds himself drafted into the Red Army. He's assigned to the procurement office where in his spare times, he writes letters home for young soldiers. For them, he writes of their fears and longings, of soldiers' fragile morality. For them, he writes of love, of a tenuous future. And then, Through them, he finds his own words, his own resolve, his own understanding of a new beginning. He told me once this is how he survived, not in the past, but for the future. Moshe was about as uncomplicated as a man could be when he died. His life was quiet order. He had found his mission in life. He accessorized it with the glass half full. He lived for 103 years. He was going home to see his beloved Malka. Their wait was over. Oh, how we miss him. The accents, vestiges of a homogenized world, of a language that doesn't understand the simple clarity of a prayer, of hope in a world where the language of the hater soon becomes the language of the hated. Sorry. I must apologize now to Moshe and to Malka, to Sam and Manny and all the other souls by me now to forgive me. For I often feel that I have not done enough. But today is good. And I want to kind of give a shout out to Paige because, where is she? Your painting was what I imagined so many times about Moshe and going into the woods, that moment from light to darkness. So I want to read something he told me just maybe a month before he passed away. And in my mind's eye, as I say this, I'm looking at your painting. It's called, anyway. A thin single-file line of partisans, weary from their long day's march, head to the safety of the forest to disappear as the day fades. As they get close to the entry point, they see a beautiful young woman who wears a peasant skirt and a blouse. She has long, flowing brown hair that covers her body, and held close to her, she nurses. The men pass slowly. They drink in the brief vision of a mother and child. Sad memories evoke a time long ago, and they cannot stop, and they cannot help. The beautiful woman stares ahead, leaning against the tree at the edge of the forest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. I'll just take 2 minutes. My name is Avi Baron Monroe, and I'm the daughter of this Moshe Baron. I am a celebrity because my father was a superhero, because his story is featured in Chutzpah, and he was mightily proud to be recognized as a hero in an accessible way for generations like yours to be able to understand the story that Ted shared, the story of his life, the story of his resistance, the story of him fighting back, not only during this horrific attack on humanity, but by having a good life after it, by finding a way to go forward with joy, with no hatred, with openness to all people. And, to have a caregiver become someone who knows my father's soul, I feel some ways better than I did. It's a gift, and it was a privilege to be able to share this, to have Ted share his intimate knowledge of my father with all of you. I'm so proud of all the students and the Waldmans for understanding the need for every generation to really own this story and to be witnesses when, as we see, the living witnesses are dying off. So I'm just grateful to be part of this journey, partnering with the Holocaust Center and all of you. Thank you. Congratulations to the awardees, the beautiful work, and keep going. The stories have to be told. Thank you.
Ted, you have me crying, which isn't hard. I tear up a lot. We have someone that arrived a couple minutes late, so I want to make sure. Do you want to come? Do you want me to just do it? Okay. This is a certificate for poetry and prose to Natalie Vasquez. So. And she goes to Boardman High School. Ted, broke a little barrier for me. I don't usually cry at these events. That was really moving, and I can thank you for sharing that, and thank all of you for coming and for sharing your art and your talent with us. We really appreciate it. And with that, we're concluding, but before you make it to the back of the room for refreshments, we want to invite all the winners to come up to the front for photos. And then also one other note before you leave tonight, please make sure to see Christina. Christina, you want to raise your hand again in the back? She has the scholarship prizes and checks, so make sure you see her before you leave. And again, thank you, and please help yourself to more refreshments, and thank you. Bye.